Well, I thought I'd start to show you now about, we're really thinking about the main event really, the Christmas lunch or dinner. And here we really is a time I would say we'd want to show our best wines. We put all that effort into the fantastic Christmas lunch, and we don't want to destroy that by putting the wrong wine with it. So let's think about what we're going to have. If we're going to have a starter, it could be chestnut soup or smoked salmon, something like that. In our Christmas lunch classic pack, we've gone with classic champagne. Now this is a fantastic producer, Champagne Louis Brisson. They're a champagne house which is down in the Aube Valley, so South Champagne. And unlike a lot of the champagne houses, all the big houses that you'll know about, actually buy their grapes from all over Champagne, from small growers, etc., because they can't produce enough of their own grapes to produce their champagne. So most champagne houses we know are owned by big companies. So Moet Chandon's owned by Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, big group, and you know, they're all fairly large, obviously commercial brands. Now the smaller growers in the last 20 years have thought, well, we're providing our grapes to the big houses, we actually want to make our own wines. They're producing fantastic grapes, and with the EU they've started to get some investments, and Louis Brisson's one of those that have received money to build a winery. So in 2000 they built a fantastic winery, and they produce champagne made with absolutely no compromise. So they farm their vineyards organically, Pinot Noir grapes and Chardonnay grapes, then do something that's very unusual in Champagne, which is they actually ferment their grapes in barrel, and that adds an awful lot of complexity, but that exposure to oxygen at a young stage is really, that sort of shock of oxygen is something that provides the grapes the ability to age for a very long time. If you've got really good quality grapes, that sort of exposure to oxygen at youth gives the wine this long aging ability. The wine is then aged in cellars for at least 5 years. The minimum in Champagne is 18 months. So they age their wines for 5 years under their cellars, and only release vintage champagne. So you get an extraordinarily good quality champagne, and because it's not a famous brand, you get a good price. So this champagne is a full-bodied, absolutely top quality champagne that would be perfect with your starter of soup. It's quite a full-bodied style, so it will work really well with food. Now, on the main with the turkey, we've wanted to offer sort of a red and a white option. So as it's a sort of poultry dish, white wine can work well, and so can red wine. There are a lot of flavours going on though with the main lunch, with the turkey and the bread sauce, and all sorts of flavours in there. That if you are going to have a white wine with it, you need a white wine to have a lot of flavour. So a sort of a light, unoaked white probably would be lost with all those flavours, stuffing, etc. So you want to go for a white that's had a bit of barrel aging, which adds the vanilla and creamy notes. And we've gone for a wine in Burgundy. Again, all the wines we ship and work with are family growers, and this one is no exception. It comes from Ladois in Burgundy, which is near Beaune, and Burgundy is where a lot of people say the best Chardonnay comes from, with Le Montrachet, really expensive area, and also the best Pinot Noir comes from. It seems to be an area which produces outstanding Pinot Noir. And Ladois is just near Beaune, and this area, Saint-Romain, a white wine from their own vineyards, and it's a delicious wine, lovely citrus flavours, but it's rounded by a beautiful creamy texture, which is given by the barrel aging. They're red. This is really unusual, because in Burgundy they had a law under Napoleon law that when the father died, the land had to be given equally to the children, both the boys and the girls, and that means that the land in Burgundy is split up with lots of families. So you have one vineyard owned by several families. Now it's quite unusual, because Domaine Capitan, actually one of their vineyards is owned just by them, which is called a monopole, and it's very famous to have that in Burgundy. So they actually have a single vineyard, but even their other vineyards, their vines that they own across the Beaune area are stunning. So this Ladois is an outstanding Pinot Noir, and it gives you a glimpse of some of the great wines that you can get from that area. So if you're going to have a lovely wine to go with turkey, you can't go wrong with a Ladois Pinot Noir. You get sort of wild strawberry notes and complexity, and it's just absolutely delicious. Now, to finish off, if you're going to have Christmas pudding, then if you go for a wine that's not as sweet as the pudding, you'll have an overly cloying pudding and an insipid wine going with it. So my sort of tip really would be go for a fortified wine and a port, and that will cut through that'll actually match up to the sweetness and work extremely well. Now we're working with Maynards, and it's a friend of mine who set Maynards up with a Van Zeller family, a famous family in port, and it's actually a very small production, although they did actually sell, they got into hard times a couple of years ago and actually sold quite a lot of their wine cheaply to empty the barrels, and so there was some very, there's a lot of their wine on the market which really the price didn't reflect the quality, which was a shame, because they are absolutely outstanding quality wines. And the 2005 is the vintage, and with the late bottle vintage port, you get late bottle vintage which is filtered and late bottle vintage which is unfiltered. Now the late bottle vintage element means that the wine's kept in barrel for 4 years, and here the wine's been kept in barrel for even longer than that. But when it was bottled, which would have been about 2009, they didn't filter the wine, which meant that the wine will continue to age in bottle. So with this port, you can continue to keep it for several years. It's absolutely delicious now, but because it has sediments, it's best to decant. But it's beautiful with the Christmas pudding, and then if you go on to having Stilton, it's just lovely to carry on in the Christmas afternoon. So this classic Christmas lunch pack is a perfect selection, and the wines will work perfectly and will really enhance all that effort that you're going to be putting into the food. So I heartily recommend it. If you want to talk about other options as well, obviously give me a call, but you can't go wrong with this pack. Thanks a lot.